The basics of video editing, and we'll be taking a look at how you can export your edits to various formats using both Adobe Premiere Pro CS5 and Final Cut Pro Studio 3. We'll also take a look at designing video encoding specs so you can make your own. We've already looked at how to export your edit in Final Cut Pro in a couple of ways, and we go over those again in the video associated with the lesson. But there's one more way we haven't looked at: sending your video to Compressor, an encoding application that comes as part of the Final Cut Studio bundle. You can do this by opening the sequence you want to send so it's visible on your timeline, going to the File menu, then Send to, then choosing Compressor. The Compressor application will launch and you will see an entry with your sequence in it. You will find a list of presets you can drag onto your sequences entry. That same panel will have a tab with preset destinations for the encoded video as well. And you can also drag those onto your sequences entry. When you've added all the presets you wanted or added any you created yourself, go ahead and click the submit button to submit the batch. Compressor will encode all your video and alert you when it's done. When that happens, you'll be able to find all the video in the destinations you selected. Adobe Premiere Pro CS5 works similarly to Compressor in that it has a partner application called Adobe Media Encoder that handles its encoding. The difference is that you submit your batch and set all your settings directly from Premiere and then add it to the queue. You can do this by selecting your various settings, whether they are from a preset or your own creation, and clicking the queue button at the bottom of the window. If you want to add more tasks to the queue, just keep repeating the export process and you queuing up them. You can either start the batch of video encoding tasks directly from Adobe Media Encoder or can just wait until it starts all by itself. Encoding is very complex, but we are going to talk about a few things so you can get to know how it works just a little bit and maybe create some of your own specifications when the presets just aren't cutting it. What is compression? When you encode a video, you're compressing so as to takes up less disk space. There are tons of different codecs that let you do this and many different file formats. For example, H.264 is a codec and the main one we'll be talking about in this section, and MOV is a file format. H.264 can encode your video, but you are probably seen it delivered as an MOV, AVI or MP4 file. That's because all these formats can serve as a content container for H.264 video. There's no real significant difference between H.264 files with these various file types, so don't worry too much about how to deliver. My preference is MP4 because pretty much everything you can play it, but most video software can handle the other formats too. When you're encoding video, you're going to be dealing with bit rates. Bit rates are how much data is used for each second of video. Let's say you have a video that was encoded at 1000 kbps. Despite what it looks like, that doesn't mean each second of video takes up 1000 kb, but rather 125 kb. In this case, kbps stands for kilobits per second, not kilobytes. Kilobits are basically 8 times the number of kilobytes, so you can get kilobytes per second by dividing your number of kilobytes by 8. If your video was exactly 94 seconds long and encoded at a bit rate of 1000 kbps, that means it would be 11.75 MB in. This is all assuming that every second of video equals exactly 1000 kilobits, which is only the case if you encode at a constant bitrate CBR. CBR encoding is generally used for streaming media to keep the flow of data as consistent as possible. But for progressively downloaded video, what you find on YouTube, Vimeo, and most of the other video sharing sites, you're better off encoding at a variable bitrate, VBR. VBR encoding can work in a couple of ways, but most encoders just have you specify a single number in kilobits per second as the average bitrate. This means that if you specified 1000 kbps, each second of the video would be encoded at around 1000 kbps. Some seconds of your video will not be as complex as others. So, ones with a lower complexity won't require all 1000 kbps. The ones that require more will take more, and on average, this will result in seemingly higher quality video without affecting the file too much. There's more to it than that. We get into more in the video associated with the lesson, but that's the basic idea. One more thing you should know about encoding is keyframes. Pretty much every codec you'll use to export video for the web, DVD, Blu-ray, etc. will have keyframes. Codecs that don't use keyframes are generally designed for editing purposes because they are less processor intensive and therefore make editing a bit faster. The DV codec is one such codec. Compare it to H.264 and see how much faster it is when editing. So, what are the keyframes? Keyframes are the full picture. Let's say you have 30 frames of video and the first and 30th frame are keyframes. You can think of those frames like photos, all the detail of the video exists in that frame. Frames 2 through 29, however, do not have the full picture. Instead, frame 2 just contains the changes that have happened since frame 1 because frame 2 is not a keyframe. How often do you need to use keyframes? Less often than you would think. Every 6 seconds is customary these days, but more keyframes you have, the easier it is to scrub through the video. The downside is that more keyframes tend to result in lower quality of video. Why? Because it takes a lot of data to store a keyframe, and if only have 1000 kilobits or whatever, every second the more frames in that second that use a full frame mean you have less room to store the changes between those frames. If you use keyframes too frequently, it will degrade the quality of those changes and the quality of those keyframes to try and stick to the average bitrate. It may seem like many keyframes is better, but you generally just end up with a lot of lower quality keyframes and therefore lower quality video. When designing a specification or a preset of your own, the first thing you need to figure out is how you are delivering your video. If you're delivering it on the web, you're not going to want to target anything slower than the slowest broadband connection because anything at that level isn't really fast enough to handle video worth watching in the first place. Well, unless it's a cell phone, but we have learned to be patient with those. The slowest broadband connection you're going to find is probably the 768 kbps DSL connection. This is the peak data rate. So, if you're thinking you should encode your video at 768 kbps, you're setting yourself up for trouble. If you're reading this, you're paying for an internet connection. Does it always perform at the peak rate? Probably not. If you want people to be able to progressively download your video in real time, you need to take the lowest target connection speed and reduce it by 1/3. For 768 kbps, that's 512 kbps, so you want to encode your video at 512 kbps. This is really only a useful bitrate for a standard definition video, and so you shouldn't use it with anything larger than 640 into 360 or 640 into 480. Around 1000 to 1200 kbps is a good target video bitrate for 720p files, and 1080p should be twice that, if not more. If you are simply creating a source file to upload to YouTube, Vimeo or some other video service, those bit rates can be much higher because those sites will recompress the file using their own standards. If that's the case, you should allocate bit rates closer to 3500 to 4000 kbps for 720p and 8000 to 9000 for 1080p. Since your video is getting compressed for a second time, this extra quality will make a difference in the final product people see when you upload it to a video sharing site. As far as audio goes, I like to use 190 kbps for MP3 or AAC audio, although you need to keep it to 160 kbps if you are encoding for an Apple device. Why? Good question. All of the suggestions mentioned in the last paragraph are based on the H.264 codec, but they should work well with pretty much any modern codec. The better the codec, the lower the bit rate can be. That means that 512 kbps will look a lot better in H.264 than it will if you use a codec that's not as good. Try encoding a file at 512 kbps using both H.264 and the standard MPG4 codec. You'll see a difference, although it may be a little subtle. Don't spoil anything. The thing is, if you shoot crappy video, your encode will look even crappier. Sometimes you will shoot crappy video and you won't even realize how crappy it is until you encode it and it looks like someone blurred out all the detail. If you ever feel like your video should look better and it's the fault of the encoding quality, try encoding a well shot episode of television using the same settings and you'll probably be surprised. A lot of us think out poorly lit video looks pretty good at 1080p, but that's because you're getting quite a bit of detail at that resolution. That video is also at a really high bitrate, so detail is retained. The more you compress your video, the more detail is thrown out. So if your video isn't well shot and lit, you're going to lose a lot more detail when encoding than you would if you just shot in properly in the first place. While it's easier said than done, do the best you can do. Get the highest quality video you can before you bring it into post-production. We can do some amazing things in post, but nothing you have learned this week is going to miraculously turn your crappy footage into a work of art. In fact, there's almost nothing you can do to save bad footage regardless of how good you are. You just can't find detail that isn't there. So before you sit down and create your amazing film, how to video or whatever, take the time to shoot it well with good light or you will be kicking yourself when everything is over. It is difficult to put a ton of work into something and then find out it looks terrible when you put it online or on a DVD. So do everything you can to make it look good so you don't have to try it to salvage it in post. During the production process, when possible, events are usually shot in the order that is most convenient or practical, and then the takes are joined together during the editing process so that they appear consecutive. The eventual running order may be very different from the other order in which the scenes were shot. The shooting order. Some of the various shooting situations follow. Sometimes the action is shot from start to finish, such as might occur if you are shooting someone who is blowing a glass vase. Only sections of the total action may be deliberately shot, omitting unwanted action. The action may be repeated so that it can be shot from various positions. All of the action at one location may be shot before going on to the next location, although the script may cut between them. A series of similar subjects may be shot that have reached different stages. For example, shots of various newborn foals, earlings, colts, and aging horses can be edited together to imply the life cycle of a specific horse. Splicing. The original video edit technique included cutting and splicing segments of the videotape together. However, the edits were physically hard on the VCR's delicate heads and did not look good on the television screen. This method was short-lived. Linear editing. Next, editing moved on to the process of linear dubbing or copying the master tape to another tape in a sequential order. This worked well for editors until the director or client wanted significant changes to be made in the middle of a tape. With a linear tape, that usually meant that the whole project had to be entirely re-edited. This was incredibly time-consuming and frustrating. Linear editing also did not work well if multiple generations, copies of tape had to be made, because each generation deteriorated a little more. Linear systems are generally made up of a player and a record, VCR, along with a control console. The original footage is placed into the player and then is edited to the recorder. Although some segments of the television industry are still using linear editing, the majority of programming today is edited on a non-linear editor. Non-linear. Today, almost all video and television programs are edited on a non-linear editor. Non-linear editing is the process whereby the recorded video is digitized, copied onto a computer. Then the footage can be arranged or rearranged, special effects can be added, and the audio and graphics can be adjusted using editing software. Non-linear editing systems make it easy to make changes, moving clips around until the director or client is happy. Hard disk and memory card cameras have allowed editors to begin editing much faster because they do not need to digitize all the footage. Non-linear systems cost a fraction of the price of a professional linear editing system. Once the edited project is complete, it can be output to whatever medium is desired: tape, internet, iPod, CD, DVD, and so on. Linear editing, copying the contents of one tape to another tape, one clip after another linearly, is still used on a limited basis. Although the use of linear editors has been significantly reduced, segments of the industry such as news still use them. Laptop linear systems have been popular with news and sports crews that are on the road. They also can be used as two separate tape decks when needed. Number 1. Schedule enough time to make a good edit. Quality editing takes time. Be realistic and then add a little extra pad of time. It is always better to be done a little early than late. Plus, you can always use a little more time to refine the edit. 2. Get a little distance from the project occasionally. It is easy to become emotionally involved with a specific element of the project. Take a break from it. When you come back, your perspective may have changed. Ask others for their opinions. There is a good chance that they will see things that you didn't see. Number 3. List the issues before fixing them one by one. It is good to come up with an organized plan for editing the project. Although it takes time to think it through, it is worth it. Number 4. Know the priority of your editing elements. While continuity and the 180-degree rule are important, the most important elements are the emotion and the story. If you lose those elements, you lose the production. Number 5. Keep a copy of each edited version. Each time you make changes to the project, keep the original. That way, you have something to go back to if you run out into problems. Number 6. Focus on the shots you have. By the time you sit down to edit, it is time to get the best project you can possibly get from the footage as you record it. You even have to forget about the script. Clip, a video segment. Cover shot, a video clip that is used to cover an edit so that the viewers do not know that the edit occurred. The term literally means cut away from the action, and it can be used to cover continuity errors or sometimes show a parallel action. Continuity. The goal of the continuity person is to make sure that from shot to shot, everything is consistent and can easily be edited together. When something in the scene is not consistent, it is called continuity error. Cut. The cut or take is the most common transition in editing. It is an instantaneous switch from one shot to the next. Cutaway shot, used to cover edits when any sequence is shortened or lengthened. Generally, it is a shot of something outside of the current frame. Digitize, converting the video and audio signals into the appropriate data files. Dissolve, an editing transition effect created by fading out one image while fading in the next image. Fade, a gradual change, dissolve between black and a video image. Filmic time, this editing technique tightens up the pace of a production by leaving out potentially boring portions of the scene when the audience's interest could wane. Firewire, also known as the IEEE 1394 or iLink, the Firewire is used to connect different pieces of equipment such as cameras, drives and computers so that they can transfer large amounts of data such as video quickly and easily. Jump cut, created with the editor cuts between two similar shots, two close-ups of the same subject. Linear editing, the copying or dubbing segments from the master tape to another tape in sequential order. Logging, loggers view the footage and write down the scene or take numbers, the length of each shot, the time code and descriptions of each shot. Non-linear, the process where the recorded video is digitized, copied onto a computer. Then the footage can be arranged or rearranged. Special effects can be added and the audio and graphics can be adjusted using editing software. Running order, the order that the scenes or shots will be shown in the final project, which may differ greatly from the shooting order. Shooting order, the order that scenes or shots may be shot using the video camera, which may differ greatly from the running order. Timeline, the timeline usually includes multiple tracks of video, audio and graphics in a non-linear editing system. Trim, to cut frames off of a shot to make it shorter. Voice over, commentary over video. Wipe, a novel transition between two video images that can have many different shapes and can have a hard or soft edge transition. Editing is where the material that has been shot is blended together to form a convincing, persuasive presentation. However, editing has a much more subtle role to play than a simple piecing together process. It is the technique of selecting and arranging shots, choosing their order, their duration, and the ways in which they are to be joined together. Editing is where graphics, music, sound effects, and special effects are added to the footage shot earlier. It has a significant influence on the viewer's reactions to what they see and hear. Skilled editing makes a major contribution to the effectiveness of any production. Poor editing can leave the audience confused and bored. The mechanics of editing are simple enough, but the subtle effects of the editor's choices are a study apart. Thank you.